Want to date more efficiently and increase the odds of finding a great partner? Then you're in the right place. Ready? Hi, it's Ken with 21traits.com, where you can take the free 90-second quiz that instantly identifies your critical compatibilities to date more efficiently and find the right partner faster. Love and long-term relationships are each defined differently, depending on who you ask and at what point in their life you ask them. There's no clear, specific, agreed-upon definition for either. Would you agree? What's more intriguing is that they're not inextricably linked as we like to think they are. You can love someone forever, even if the relationship doesn't last. And you can have a long-term relationship where love is lacking to one extent or another. This is up for discussion, but not argument. It's irrefutable. Perhaps you've even lived it yourself. We've alluded to love and how long it lasts in past episodes, but I want to dig deeper here. Love over the long term is the holy grail, no doubt. But in and of themselves, love and time are not interdependent. They actually have nothing to do with each other, unless you're lucky and they happen to coincide. Love is a feeling, a state of mind. Whether it's based on chemistry, transactional exchanges, or a combination of both, it's an emotional understanding. It has nothing to do with time per se. After all, you can still love someone who's no longer with you. Love is love. When you both feel it, you don't need to define, examine, or understand it any better than that. Long-term relationships are by definition an expression of time, of duration. But that's relative, isn't it? What long-term is or feels like depends on your perspective. Is a year-long romance better or worse than one lasting much longer? Exactly. When it's rooted in love, a relationship is timeless. Never mind how many anniversaries you celebrate, or if it runs its course after just a year or two. Adding to the ambiguity is that, on some level, there's no such thing as time. But how long is long-term can't be universally or objectively defined. Everyone has their own sense of it, whether that's 6 months, a year, 10 years, or forever, conceptually speaking, or beyond the death of one person, practically speaking. So, what is it that you really want and believe is possible? You can certainly want it all, authentic love forever, but as with most things, we're often forced to make choices, to prioritize. We learn that whatever the endeavor, we can only extract so much consistent success on so many levels. Just ask the most successful people you know. They're probably not fully satisfied. This could include you. If it's not a foregone conclusion that love and long-term relationships are inextricably linked, then do you need to modify your relationship goals? Do you need to focus more on love, which admittedly can take time to blossom even with the right person, or focus on the type of relationship in terms of how much time you spend together, frequency, over some period of time, duration? Forced to choose, and I mean forced, because you probably won't pick one, you'll say you want both. Would you choose love or a long-term relationship? I'll circle back in just a moment as to why this choice, call it a mindset, is critical to your search and your goals in dating and relationships. For proof that love and the long term are not for the faint of heart and don't always travel together, we need only look to one of the greatest movies of all time about love, Moonstruck. Here's just one example. Loretta, played by Cher, and her mom, Olympia Dukakis, are in the kitchen talking about Cher's love for each of two brothers. First, her mom asks her about Johnny, the mama's boy. Do you love him, Loretta? No. Good. When you love them, they drive you crazy because they know they can. Later, her mom asks her about Ronnie, the crazy guy. Do you love him, Loretta? Yeah, Ma, I love him awful. Oh, God, that's too bad. Her mom is saying, in effect, that she's likely in for a bumpy ride, one that's more passionate now, but probably less stable in the long run. When it comes to these things, we're a confused, complex, and emotional species. Okay, so back to the main point. What I said is critical. Your mindset on love and the long term. Both is great and ideal, obviously. My parents went 70 years together. I think you'd agree that's long term. And plenty of people are still getting married. But guess what? Half of them are still getting divorced, on average after just 8 years. Is that long term? Was their love genuine and present the entire time? And what of second marriages? Well, they're known to fail faster and at a higher rate. Look, there are no statistics for long-term breakups of unmarried couples, of course. But are we to believe, based on the stats we do have, that half of all people committing to marriage can't remain at close range for more than 8 years? It's actually more like 5 or 6 when you account for the time that leads up to the final decree. Or put another way, the couple of years of decline that leads down to it. By some people's standard, that's still long term. For others, not even close. Let me ask it this way. Forced to choose, would you pick guaranteed genuine love for an unknown length of time, or a long-term relationship where it's unclear whether the love is completely reciprocal or absolute? Are you stuck? Paralyzed with the realization you might be better off focusing on one or the other? What, you refuse to compromise? Okay, well, place your bets. Because love and relationships are like a casino. There's excitement, hope, risk, and just enough wins to keep you coming back. But you inevitably wind up losing because the odds are always against you. What, too dark, cynical, emoji for cringeworthy? I'm just reporting the odds. You make the decisions. Look, I'm not saying you have to make a choice. I'm asking if your experience in the field suggests that, 1, love and the length of a relationship have little to do with each other, unless they just happen to, and 2, whether you might be better off focusing on the person and relationship you want now, not how long it will last when you look back later. If you're getting ahead of me, you may have realized that this approach suggests pausing before asking, where's this thing going? There are certainly times to ask that, but you might first consider whether it has to go somewhere right now if both of you love being with each other. To some people, male or female, where's this thing going is a relationship killer, no matter how softly, deftly, differently it's asked. This is largely because there are no guarantees in life and love. How does anyone really know the answer to that? An alternative question that gets at the same thing might be, what do you want right now? Let's look at this yet another way. You have one arrow and can only shoot at one target. Do you aim for the heart or the calendar? Love or a length of time? If your partner's actions demonstrate love, or at least lean in that direction, and their actions resonate with you, the relationship has potential. Of course, there are nuances. People can be complicated or withholding or uncertain. That includes you. We're only human. All that said, if you're in a time crunch of sorts relative to having children or planning on it, I get it. Male or female, you're off the hook. For now. But beyond that stage, do you think in general that the odds typically favor a long-term relationship based on authentically reciprocal love, or that there's no way of knowing anything and you're better off focusing on one or the other, someone you love being with, or the length of time a relationship lasts? Let's shift gears for a moment. Still on love in the long term. We all know the joy and upside of both, but I don't think a conversation about LTRs is complete without at least touching on the downside, how challenging they can be. If it weren't, everyone would be in one and there'd be nothing to explore, figure out. So consider this. What's the number one reason people break up after a long time together? They want to. At some point, most of us want to pair up for the long term, but it's no easier when you're older or more experienced. Life gets more complicated as we age, not less. Also, the truth is, many people aren't easy or enjoyable enough to be with frequently, at close range, over a long period of time. Relationships are tricky and complex because people are those things. Put that together with time and proximity, and the challenges multiply exponentially. When you consider what's needed for a long-term committed exclusive relationship where each person supports, enhances, and enjoys the other, you don't have to thread a needle so much as 100 needles. They also require the willingness of both partners to make adjustments and sacrifices. Coupling is hard enough for self-aware people who are compatible and meet at the right time, never mind differences in lifestyles, interests, circumstances, and priorities. But pairing up for the long run is also challenging because your preferred partner for sex and that for companionship may not be the same person at any given point in time. Yes, I just said that. It's the uncomfortable, unspoken truth. That isn't just a male perspective. And I'll make that point by quoting another movie that deals with love and relationships. Trainwreck. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. If you have, you've probably seen it 3 times. Amy Schumer, the writer and star, is talking with her sister about doubts she has with her boyfriend in the long term. She comments, "The sex is good, but it's not the best I've ever had." Amy, you don't want best sex guy. Best sex guy is in jail. Yeah, I've been thinking about reaching out to him. Okay, that last line doesn't add to the point, but it's too funny to leave out. The real point is men and women have moved in each other's direction over the years. They are more aligned in thoughts and values than ever before. That includes sex. When it comes down to it, not everyone has the capacity to make the emotional investment to be with the same person over a long period of time. Do you? Assuming you do, are you self-aware and empathetic enough to stay the course, keep it fresh, loving, and just plain awesome? I'd like to think all of us are. I grew up thinking long-term meant for the rest of your life. As I mentioned, my parents were married 70 years. Through personal experience and the observation of countless others, I've learned to manage down my definition of long-term. But stats are one thing. They suggest 8 years, strictly speaking, based on divorce rates. Your intentions, good fortune, and definition of long-term is up to you. Only you can decide how long is a long-term relationship and the priority you place on love, living in the moment, living in commitment, and ultimately what a long-term relationship means to you and the value you place on it. Whatever you think about love in the long term, our podcasts and the quiz at 21traits.com are intended to put the odds in your favor, to help you date more efficiently and wind up in the kind of relationship you want, for however long you, your partner, and the universe allow it. Make sure you follow our podcast, share it with friends, and take the quiz at 21traits.com. See you next time.